Hey guys, so with TestLive for 3.0 being live, I thought I'd take some time to talk through if I think the new Building Rework system is actually good. This is pre-release footage from before TestLive went public, so it may not be 100% indicative of what is on TestLive now, or what goes into the live servers. I personally don't see much changing, so hopefully this should be fairly accurate to the final product. Perhaps the main point of this rework is to make things simpler and easier for all players. As an experienced builder, it's definitely easy to overlook how difficult building can be for new players and for players on controller, so it's an important accessibility step. In terms of achieving that goal, I think the rework does well. There is definitely a learning curve, especially if you're used to the old system like I am, but you'll find that it's easiest to use and speeds things up massively in the middle section of construction. That being said, things do feel a touch slow at the start of construction due to having to navigate through all the pieces you need one by one. As a PC player, I can't speak on how useful it is for controllers, but I get the rough impression from my knowledge of controllers that it will be a lot easier, as it reduces a lot of the fiddly work of going through multiple item selection screens. That being said, the current menu can be cumbersome in some sections and honestly could really do with a search bar or something similar. Overall, I'd say this rework gets a 7 out of 10 in terms of the ease of use department, which is brought down by the menu organisation and having to slow down at the start of the build. One of the most important features of this building system should be teaching new players how to build. It's all well and good having a smooth system, but if new players struggle to work it out without watching guides, that isn't great. I do think the new system does help with that. It seems that the stability previews on buildables are actually accurate, whereas before they didn't seem to be accurate. However, there is still no indicator of where the snap point of certain building pieces is. To help new players learn, I think having a contrasting colour on item previews to show where the snap point is, maybe a purple line for example, would help people understand how and where an item will snap. Also, the orientation arrow is still a thing on buildables, but, and this has been a small complaint of mine for quite a while, it's just too small. It does need to be resized and scaled up. One of the main issues with teaching is the new delete system. Whilst it is better than admin deleting or removing through the interaction menu, it unfortunately does not, at the time of writing anyway, include cascading, which would show other pieces dependent on the stability of the selected piece. For example, if I have an entire 3x3 built on a single pillar, and then I were to hover the delete brush over that pillar, it should show the whole structure in red, but currently it will only show the piece you're aiming at. This would be a really good feature to help new players understand stability and the consequences of it, and hopefully it does make it either into the full release or a future patch. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for teaching new players. Does feel like a good step, but a lot more could be done. Another important aspect is how flexible the system is when building. This is probably more for the experienced builders that are capable of building quickly and fluidly. The previous system wasn't terribly flexible. Unless you were building something that only required a handful of pieces, you might often have to stop, open your inventory or the admin panel and grab new items. With this system, it does feel clunky to start with, but it becomes incredibly flexible once you've already placed items you need elsewhere. Mistakes are really easy to correct by just re-grabbing the correct piece from elsewhere, and by virtue of being able to pick up building pieces you're looking at without opening a menu, it does speed things up massively. This is a great quality of life addition that will be truly useful for both new and experienced builders. On that topic of flexibility, you can still, at the time of writing anyway, build from the hotbar. This is mainly useful for PC players, but if you're struggling to get a fast start on builds, you can put some building pieces into the hotbar, start with that, and then use the construction hammer from there. Hopefully this isn't just a TestLive thing and actually makes it into the live build, because having both options is, well, it only brings a benefit really. Overall, 8 out of 10 on the flexibility front, brought down solely by the slower start of builds. Build Anywhere is somewhat disappointing, though in a way that was very much expected. This option basically just removes those building restrictions in certain areas and allows you to build anywhere. Unlike the less building placement restrictions mod, you're not able to place decorative items at weird angles, place fences in door frames, or the other unusual stuff that LBPR allows you to do. For this reason, I imagine most PC players will stick to using LBPR, though for console guys, it's still overall an improvement. From the PC perspective, 5 out of 10 for Build Anywhere. It does what it says on the tin, but doesn't offer the extra functionality that LBPR does, which is a shame considering this feature is clearly trying to emulate that mod for consoles. Still, a good addition for the folks over on PlayStation and Xbox. The setting for no stability loss is disappointing in an unexpected way, though I can kinda see why. To toggle this feature on, you just gotta set your stability multiplier to 0 on the building tab of your settings menu. This does what you might expect to remove stability costs, meaning you can easily bridge across what would usually be impossible distances. This is great if you struggle with stability, or if you just want to build something wacky. The bad part is that it's not a stability freeze. My first thought, and likely the first thought of others, was to try to build a flying base. In this example I built a truly awful flying ship, but it was just a test build, so please don't bully me in the comments. I expected I'd be able to just remove the pillars below and thus create a floating build, but unfortunately no such luck. The ship just disappeared. Functionality wise, I understand why. Whilst there is no stability multiplier in effect, it does still require stability of some form. Technically, this makes sense, but there will definitely be others out there wanting to build floating structures that will be disappointed. Hopefully, a stability freeze is something that could be added or merged into the system in the future. Based on that, no stability loss gets a 5 out of 10. It does what it says on the tin, yes, but it is disappointing in that you can't do things that you feel like you should be able to do. Finally, I'm going to go over a couple of issues with the rework. The preview of your buildable and placeable items rarely doesn't update, and it stays on the previous selection. This is fixed by just selecting what you want to place. Again, it's a minor annoyance, but it's rare enough that it's not a consistent problem. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you do have a slower start when placing multiple blocks than you did previously. However, if building from the hotbar remains in as it is currently, then that's a good workaround. There is also an occasional issue with not being able to rotate wall tiles on fence foundations, and I assume regular foundations as well. It seems this can be fixed by removing the ceiling tile, but it's a bit of a pain. And finally, some negative points. Firstly, the menu does need search features. In 6 months or a year, this menu is going to become really bloated. Well, probably. So a search feature is desperately needed. The fact that Build Anywhere mode is not a LBPR replacement, and thus doesn't allow fences in door frames, etc., is a negative for me. I would like to see more relaxed rules on what you can do there, seeing as it won't be enabled on official servers anyway. As I mentioned earlier, the delete preview not cascading is a big thing for teaching new players and hopefully should be fixed quickly. The placement previews of certain build pieces and a lot of decoration pieces can be really hard to see, especially against some of the new timber flooring in the sandstone section. To fix this, I would personally either brighten up the previews or just add a small black outline so they can be differentiated from the ground. I know this one annoyed me and it's going to annoy you as well. Fence foundations cannot be placed on the side of foundations anymore. This is apparently because it was originally a bug that was targeted for fixing for a while, but it does make life much harder when trying to build and plan structures using wedges and squares, whilst ultimately trying to use fence foundations. Hopefully a workaround for this happens, or maybe something is added to regain this functionality. I know there's a lot of servers out there, especially on PC, where there are harsh admin-based restrictions on how many foundations you can use. So either you build boxes with fence foundations, or you don't build a base at all. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but it would be nice to have this functionality back in some form. Overall, Building Rework, pretty good. It massively speeds up construction, especially in the middle ground, and adds a lot of small but useful features. It should meet its suited aim of making building more accessible for console and controller players, and should hopefully make the system a little more new player friendly. That being said, there are improvements that could be made. For me, I'd give the Building Rework a 7 out of 10. Is it better than the previous system? I think, considering the totality of everything involved, yes. It does have some issues, some oversights, and some not so great design decisions, but I think it's an overall benefit to the game and the building system, and I look forward to Funcom addressing some of the issues with it in the future. If you enjoy my content, all the links to my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Host Havoc affiliate page, NordVPN discount and NordPass discount are available in the description below. However, of course, you can simply just leave a like, a comment or subscribe. Any of those are very greatly appreciated. Patrons get a bunch of nice benefits, including sneak peeks of videos, your name in every video, custom made wallpapers in 1080p and 4K resolutions, full-size build blueprints, Discord roles and more. As always, a massive thanks to our patrons Sedilot, Randar, Connor, Ivy, Torn, Ill-Fated, Coffeeman04, Jacques, Marion Ladd, Baron, Ghosty Pants, Ryan, Ben, Alfric, Eagle Rose, Melanie and X-Screechers X. As always, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon.